Leanne, thank you very much indeed, and a warm welcome to you at home to this, the latest in the series of New Age Business Briefings brought to you by the SABC. And as Leanne was saying, the topic of conversation today is the role of youth, their participation in the mainstream economy. And in fact, this is a platform, a forum that's been brought to the fore by the African National Congress, and to help us discuss this, what it is, what it's going to do for the youth in business, and how it's going to work. I'm joined now by my guests, and you'll have heard their names a little bit earlier on, but let's introduce them a little bit more formally, and let's get this conversation underway. And I guess you're the custodian of this initiative, the godfather, as it were, the Treasurer General of the African National Congress, Dr. Zweli Mkhize. A very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, Peter, and all the viewers and the members of our audience. We have...
I'm going to ask you the questions just now. I just wanted to say hello to you.
Thank you.
Next to you, we have the Minister of Public Enterprises, but he's also an ANC NEC member. So he's sitting wearing two hats, but I'm going to engage with him more on the role of public enterprise and government in this initiative. He's been on our program a few times. Minister Malusi Gigaba, very warm welcome to you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
Next to you, we have a young woman from the Northern Cape, Kimberley to be exact. She runs her own business, and so this is an initiative that certainly affects her and her peer group. And to tell us a little bit about how she sees this forum coming together is Tsuluwesi. Thank you very much for joining us, and welcome to you.
Good morning. Thank you.
And next to you is somebody who's also not a stranger to this program, private sector, Black Business Council, wears many hats, but today you're coming representing the private sector. Secretary General of the Black Business Council, Mr. Sandton, a very warm welcome to you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
All right, okay, let's start with you, TG. What is this progressive youth in business?
We will start by indicating that there is what we call a progressive business forum, which is a forum of business people who through which they interact with the policymakers, the political leaders, and therefore tends to create an opportunity to share views and guide and give advice in terms of what business people see as areas that the ruling party needs to be focusing on. It's a very successful business forum which has got, at the moment, about 6,000 members. Now, we have therefore established this progressive youth in business as a forum for the youth who are in business, largely to be a part of that, and the approach is to help to get young people to participate in the discourse around issues of economic emancipation, look at what the youth can do, and therefore share their experience, and particularly what views they have of the current policies that the ruling party has. You will notice that in the manifesto of the ruling party, there's the first chapter deals with the economic emancipation. It deals with the issues of economic transformation, and it focuses quite a bit on issues where we have specific areas where we think the youth need to be taking interest. So the issues around how a lot of the opportunities in infrastructure build must be given to younger people, the issue of how when we deal with procurement, that local procurement needs to be one focus, and we're looking at young people, we're looking at women, we're looking at the participation at that level of emerging entrepreneurs. We're talking about the promotion of youth employment incentives, where youth must be given opportunities to get experience by established business. We're talking about training, youth skills development, and all of these together are saying to us the youth need to be empowered to participate in this discourse, where they'll be able to say, we see these policies, this is how we access the information, this is how we access government, this is how how private sector can assist, and this is how young people can benefit, and these are the challenges. We think that it's going to help the ruling party also to monitor the effectiveness of these policies with the experience and the energies of young people, and we are convinced that young people have got enough experience at this point and enough interest to participate in building entrepreneurship, so that you have the young people now participate in this whole change with the National Development Plan, looking at new infrastructure build, industrialization. The young people must lead and they must participate at that level. And that's why we're forming this Progressive Youth in Business as a forum.
All right, so we're going to unpack that a little bit further, and I'm sure a lot of questions are going to be raised around the why and how. But you did mention that it's a forum that's going to be able to communicate with government and set policy from the ANC flowing into government and the state. Well, let's talk to the state now. Minister of Public Enterprises, how would you say the ANC-led government has succeeded in the past 20 years in engaging with this question of youth in business and participating in the mainstream economy?
You know, Peter, we started off in 1996 by establishing the National Youth Commission. It was the first time in South Africa that a body dedicated to the development and empowerment of young people was created. Afterwards, when Old Mutual was delisting, government decided to establish the Umsobomvu Youth Fund and set aside R1 billion to support young people in terms of entrepreneurship funding. And later on, around 2004, we decided that the existence of these two organizations was creating a disjuncture between them, and they were stepping on each other's toes. And that's when we decided to merge them to establish the National Youth Development Agency. There is a lot that has been done by these institutions to put in place a national youth development framework to support a number of youth entrepreneurship opportunities. But it's quite clear that with the existence of these two organizations and subsequently the NYDA, a lot of government initiatives in terms of youth entrepreneurship were relegated or shifted to the NYDA, as if the NYDA on its own would be a panacea for all the challenges that young people faced. And we tended over the last 20 years, much as we did a lot in terms of education and training, massifying university education and creating new FET colleges, we tended to think that all that young people needed in terms of the economy were skills and jobs. And therefore, their appetite for entrepreneurship was actually neglected for the greater part of the last 20 years. And that's why an initiative such as this one is so critical, because it answers the need for the South African economy to build entrepreneurs who are young, who are not about to retire, therefore they are not in a rush to make a quick buck so that they retire on handsome pensions. They can be in this for the long haul. They can plow their energies and their zeal as well as their potential into long-term projects. And that's why the ANC manifesto makes the critical point that there must be set-asides for young people in terms of the infrastructure build program, not only in terms of employment, but also in terms of entrepreneurship opportunities, supporting youth cooperatives, youth SMMEs, and creating both institutional and funding mechanisms to support these institutions of young people.
All right, we'll again unpack that a little bit further and what role government can play in that. But you mentioned young people and their participation, and we got a bit of history in terms of some of the initiatives that have happened before. So Zweli, I'm going to ask you, you're a young businesswoman in Kimberley. What's going to be, and you're also a representative of this initiative, and I'm wondering what's going to be different about this one We've heard from Minister, there have been some incarnations, some ideas to address youth in business and their participation. I'm wondering what's going to be different about this one?
Thank you, Peter. As a young South African that is currently in business, I think I must first start by appreciating the role that our ANC-led government has made available to a young person like myself from the rural to conduct business. And through this initiative of progressive youth in business, we are hoping to have a working relationship and influence policies to the ANC, because yes, structures have been there, policies have been there in the past, but what makes Progressive Youth in Business Forum unique is the fact that for the first time, our voice will be heard as the youth, where we can go back and say, these are our challenges, this is our experiences currently, and this is what we think as youth that are in business, we should pay forward for the existing youth that are in business, and also those that are sitting with an idea in the middle of nowhere, say to say that I'm aspiring to become a businessman or woman tomorrow. And through this voice of Business Youth in Progress, we really believe, like you, Peter, you've just alluded now that I'm also a member of PYB, to invite others also to say that we have a direct link between ourselves and the ANC-led government to speak on issues that are going to uplift youth and the economy.
All right, and part of that economy involves the private sector. And I'm wondering, Sandile Zungu, what role do you see the private sector playing? Because government can't do it alone. Young people need your help. What can you do?
Well, the truth is that the private sector has created an environment where young people have demonstrated that they can indeed be responsible citizens. If you look at young people who have come of age today, they are seen as adults, but they began to be entrepreneurs when they were young. People like Patrice Motsepe, people like Sbu Liope, DJ Sbu himself, a young person, very industrious, coming of age. People like Mark Shuttleworth, they began to demonstrate who they are when they were young people. They are now eminent business people. So it can be done. And all of these people have emerged during the last 20 years, which shows that the private sector creates a fertile environment for people to succeed, but the policies in the country have actually enabled that and have assisted. So we need to do more, obviously, because the facts are talking for themselves. The economy is not growing fast enough. The transformation in the ownership of the economy still resemble, the old era. But there's no doubt that a lot has been achieved, and so obviously a lot needs to be done along the area of enterprise development, ensuring that businesses led by young people are integrated into the supply chains of large corporates. That's what we are seeing, likes of Transnet saying, that they'll be building locomotives, but they'll be procuring from emerging players. Yes, black industrialists, but certainly some bias towards young-led businesses is what is required in this country. And I think we're on the right track.
All right, okay, so I think this is probably a great place to take a small pause for thought. But thank you very much for sharing your opening thoughts, and we'll start engaging with our audience here and you at home as well. What your questions and concerns are about the role that youth are playing in the economy, what can be done, what other initiatives perhaps need to be looked at under this umbrella. All of that coming up after this break, so stay with us for that.